everyone, it's Haley, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 tips to help you read faster. So last year I did a video talking about my top 6 tips on how to read more. Now this will have a little bit of overlap with this video because naturally if you are reading faster, you're going to be reading more. So there are a couple of tips that I mentioned in that video that I'm going to be mentioning again because I do think that they are worth mentioning, but I do have a couple of things to add to it because this past year I've been trying to kind of speed up my reading a little bit, but in a way that is enjoyable, because I find if you're really trying to speed through books, then you're not really having fun with reading and it's becoming a chore. So you really don't want to just try and whiz through them, but there's nothing wrong with trying and speeding up your natural reading speed gradually rather than doing it all at once. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. So let's just get into it. So my first tip is to try and stick to books that interest you. Why waste your time with something that you really don't think you'll like? Now I am all for expanding your horizons, trying out different genres, but at the same time, if you are really trying to, like, maybe it's crunch time and you're trying to meet a Goodreads goal, or you are trying to get your TBR pile down, whatever the reason may be, you're trying to read quickly all at once. So why spend the time on a book that you know is going to take you a little bit longer because you don't really enjoy it? And kind of a sub point to that is to not be afraid to DNF books. If you're not liking a book, once again, why waste your time with it? There's so many other books out there to read that you will really enjoy, so why spend the time on a book that you know you won't like? Now, however, I do recognize that you may be in a situation where you are reading a book for school, or you're reading it, you are a fellow book reviewer and you were sent it for review, so you have to read it. In that case, I would say if you're reading it for school, do some research on the book. That will really help you to kind of get into it, because I find that if I do some research and I see something really interesting about the book, then I will be more inclined to read it. But if you are reading something for review, I just say power through and try and get through it if you're not liking it. That's kind of the hard thing, but you just kind of have to be critical, and I find if you're a little bit more critical, that will make it a little bit easier to get through the book. My second tip is one that I mentioned in previous video, and it is one that I really do stand by, and that is to set aside a specific time that you will be reading every day. Now, whether you have 20 minutes, 10 minutes, or 30 minutes, an hour, however long you have, try and set aside that specific time to read, and that will be all you do, and you get in like a little bit every day, and that is so helpful because then you get through the book a little bit more quickly as you are reading a little chunk every day. And I have a little sub point to this that I'll get to later, but my time that I read is I will read in the morning over breakfast if I can. Sometimes I'm a little bit too rushed because I slept in past my alarm, which happens all the time, and I can't do that, but I will always, every night before bed, I will read, and I stop doing any work or any school stuff at 10 o'clock, and then I'll get ready for bed, and then I'll have about an hour and a half before I actually go to sleep, or try to go to sleep, when I will be reading. So I just find that time is really great. I find reading before bed is awesome because you don't have any, like, looking at screens before bed, it's going to keep you up, and it's like a scientifically proven thing where the blue light from it will make you stay up longer. So why not read a book? Reading just really helps to relax me and unwind, so I really like doing that right before bed. And I know for me personally, especially at night, my phone and my computer can be a huge distraction, so I will close up my computer and I will keep it charging far away from my bed so that I won't be tempted to reach for it, and my phone I will put on do not disturb. I set my alarm, I get all that stuff going, and I will once again plug it far away from my bed, or else I will definitely be on it. Now, my other point to that is to try and set a reading goal for every single day. I find this to be so helpful and I love doing it. It just really motivates me to get some reading done, and you can do it according to your natural reading speed. Now, one thing that you don't want to do is try and force yourself to become a different reader than you already are. Now, I am a medium. I would say I'm like a pretty it's such a huge spectrum. So I would say I'm a pretty fast reader, but I'm not like the fastest. I know a lot of people who can read books way faster than I can. So I find that reading 100 pages a day is not an unreasonable goal. So I will kind of set a goal for myself to read 100 pages a day. But your goal may be to read 30 pages a day or to finish one chapter a day. Whatever it is, set a little goal for yourself, and as you find yourself reading a little bit more quickly, kind of increase that goal, and that will, you get a little bit more every day, and then before you know it, you'll be reading really, really quickly. And I will set a big goal and a little goal. So my big goal, I will not really mark off physically in my book, but as I'm reading, like, I'll sit down, open my book, right, and then say I know that I have 10 minutes to read. Well, okay, so maybe I can read 3 pages in 10 minutes. So I will put the bookmark after those 3 pages, and then I'll try and read up to the bookmark. So however long you have, like, kind of set a goal for yourself for how many pages you will read in that time, and then just put your bookmark wherever you want to stop, like wherever you want to get to, and even if you can push it further. So I really like having kind of like a physical marker of that, so I like putting my bookmark like a couple pages ahead if I know that I have 10 minutes, or maybe I'll put it 50 pages ahead if I know that I have an hour. Like, however long it takes you, you have to kind of like learn how long it usually takes you to read one page. So there are tons of things online that can measure your reading speed. So I recommend doing that and then going from there and working with that reading speed. Now, one thing that I did want to quickly mention is that there are quite a few speed reading techniques out there, and I'm not a huge advocate for speed reading just because I find that I don't retain nearly as much information if I am speed reading. But speed reading is when you're trying to eliminate subvocalization. So when you're reading, you might not realize, but there's like a voice in your head that is like saying what you're reading, and if you eliminate that voice, then you can read a lot faster, because realistically, if you are subvocalizing everything, you can only read as quickly as you can talk. I have the hardest time with eliminating subvocalization because then I feel like I'm not actually reading. Like, that's how I was taught to read, so that's how I do it. So I don't hugely recommend that, but I think it is interesting to kind of try out. It has helped me a little bit to, like, I don't completely eliminate it, but I will be aware of how I'm saying every single word, and I might not need to, like, I won't need to say the articles or things like that that don't really add anything to the sentence, and I'll still understand it, if that makes sense. There are tons of videos on this, so that's why I'm just going over it briefly. Another thing is, I actually find this super helpful, but if you, when you're reading, you run your finger like down where you're reading, it's really helpful, and it actually helps you to read more quickly. And when you're reading, you might not realize, but you would go like word by word. Now, what speed readers recommend is to group the words, which I find actually really, really helpful, and I still understand what's going on. Like, I really like that speed reading technique. So instead of saying a beautiful deadly weapon, you'd say a beautiful deadly weapon. Like, you group the words together. It's kind of hard to explain, and other people explain it better. So if you are interested in kind of learning more about speed reading, then I would go and check it out. There are tons of videos, tons of articles on it. They can teach you much better than I can. And like I said, I'm not a huge advocate for it, but I do think that it is interesting to test out some of the techniques, and they can help you. Now, my final tip is to just keep it fun. Make sure that you're not so focused on reading quickly that reading is becoming a chore, because I found that when I first started reading a lot, that I would become so like narrow-minded with, I want to read this quickly, and I would be reading books so quickly that I would burn myself out, and it just became like reading was all that I did, and it just became so overwhelming that I got into this huge reading slump that like still sometimes is haunting me. So don't burn yourself out. Take it easy, and like just push yourself a little bit more every day. It is honestly the easiest thing to do, and before you know it, you'll be reading much faster than you even realized you ever could. So that is all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any tips on how you read faster or what helps you out. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!